Welcome everybody to another video. I'm Dr. Ford, the NICU Doc. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Throughout my time as a neonatologist and taking care of very sick babies, I have made some friends, some families that have been through the NICU that are now friends of mine. And I asked them to send me some of their advice that they can give you, the viewer, if you are in the NICU right now or if you know you're going to be going into the NICU. This advice is really good for you and really helpful because it comes from families. And so I want to read off some of those pieces of advice, and then obviously I will elaborate on the medical part of things. And make sure you stay to the end because I'm going to read you a piece of advice from a mother who talks about you. Make sure you listen to the end of this video so you can hear that really important piece of advice. Okay, let's get to today's video. Giving the trainees all those NICU secrets, teaching the families, bringing you physiology and the latest evidence in management of NICU babies. Just having fun with it. So Miss Christina sends this advice. Your child will look more sick and fragile than you can imagine. Prepare for that. Tubes and wires will be the norm for a while. And that is so true. Unfortunately, when babies get admitted into the intensive care unit, the neonatal intensive care unit especially, they tend to be sick. And because of that, we as physicians and other healthcare takers, we have to make sure that your baby is safe. To be able to do that, sometimes we have to place an IV or an intravenous catheter, which is basically a way to be able to give fluids and medications straight into the vein. Sometimes we have to insert something called a PICC, which is a peripherally inserted or percutaneously inserted central catheter. And what that is that it's like an IV, but actually threads all the way close to your heart or close to a big blood vessel if it's done in the lower extremity. So the point of having these access is to be able to make sure that your baby receives good nutrition, that your baby is able to get the right medications going straight into a big blood vessel so it doesn't cause any damage to the little tiny small blood vessels. With that, a baby can also have breathing problems and so may require an ET tube or endotracheal tube. Basically, this is a plastic tube that goes into the trachea, into the windpipe, for your baby to be able to breathe. If it's having breathing problems, oxygen problems, we have to make sure that we can allow your baby to get some good oxygen, and sometimes we have to do FiO2. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to go ahead and post a card right up here so you can look at the definition of FiO2. Another piece of advice from another parent is don't be afraid to ask questions. The medical team moves fast and they will slow down so that you can fully understand what's happening with your child. And that is so important. Again, because we are caring for a lot of babies in the intensive care unit, we tend to go in, do our rounds fairly rapidly, go through all the numbers, make sure that all the labs are done, make sure that we are very complete, but we use a lot of medical lingo. Usually we try at the end of rounds to be able to summarize all the information we just talked about, stop with the medical lingo, be able to use regular normal words with the families that they can understand, and make sure that we also reciprocate, that we're able to make sure that the families understand what it is that we're talking about. Miss Katie's advice for you. There will be good days and bad days. In the early days, I found myself filled with hope. But that optimism was met with sadness each time my child took a turn for the worse. I quickly learned the NICU brings out a roller coaster of emotions. Even though the setbacks stand out, the good days far outweigh the bad. I learned to celebrate the milestones, as small as that may be. It is a roller coaster ride in the intensive care unit. I always do mention, I use that analogy with a lot of families. There are really good days and there are really bad days, and it's really hard to stay even-keeled. You get very emotional on the happy level for the good days and then very sad on the bad days. But do know that when there are those bad days, when things don't seem to be going in the right direction, know that the good days are coming, that they will be, those sad days will be short-lived, and you will also have very good days. But also keep in mind, when you have those really good days, celebrate them, enjoy them, love them, but know that, sometimes things can get a little bit worse. And so, hang on, it is a crazy roller coaster ride. One thing that I do say is that there are all these crevices, dips, and you do see these good and bad days. But as the baby gets older, if you're born premature, as the baby gets older, you are gonna see that the crevices or the bad days get a little bit smaller and shorter. The good days begin to get longer and happier and last longer. So it's really great to see that. So what I do tell families is that in time though, you will begin to see that some of the crevices, some of the bad days get a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller, less frequent, and you get to see more frequent good days. You get to see higher peaks of excitement, of goals. You begin to move faster towards being able to get home. The last stretch is a little bit hard, getting ready to go home, and we'll talk about that later. The next one is actually dear to my heart. This is a family I really care a lot about. We've become very good friends. This is coming from Katie and Mike. And you gotta listen to this one. This one will touch your heart. The NICU will change you in ways you never imagined. It doesn't matter whether you spend 1 day or 100. The NICU has a profound impact on your life. As you leave the hospital that final day with your NICU grad in tow, you are a changed person. Just wait, you will know exactly what I mean. Over the course of the stay, I learned the importance of being patient and knowing that slow and steady wins the race. We live in a world of instant gratifications and nows. I found that I am stronger than I ever thought possible, and I learned to appreciate every moment, knowing how fragile life can be. And as I watched my miracle survivor overcome mounting obstacles, I felt a deep sense of pride. She may be fragile, but she's the strongest fighter I've ever met. And 4 years later, I realized how blessed I am to be a parent of a NICU baby. And these are tough lessons. I mean, this one kind of gets me to the core. We have babies that are in the intensive care unit for a very long time who are born very premature or very sick. And I am blessed and honored to be a neonatologist, to be able to have families really put their babies in my hands and in God's hands, that I can really take care of babies with my skill, with my team, with all the equipment and all the knowledge that we have to get babies to be better. It really takes a village to take care of babies, and the families are such an important part of that. And as you go through the steps and as you're walking out of the hospital, you will feel that, and try and remember that feeling when you first walked into the NICU, and as you walk out, you're gonna feel how you have grown and matured. You'd rather never have known about the NICU, but now that you know all this, you're such a stronger person now, just like your baby is stronger. At first, you hear that first term, CPAP, you have no idea. At the end, you're telling some of the doctors and the nurses, hey, why don't we go down on the CPAP? Why don't we change this? Why don't we go up on the FiO2? Hey, I saw that the baby didn't feed that well. Can we go ahead and take the, put in the NG tube? You're gonna be speaking our lingo. And it's amazing the growth that I see in parents, the maturity. You will grow, you will change for the better. You're gonna mature within medicine, and you and the baby fighting together are gonna come out and have a great life outside of the NICU. So hang in there if you're still in there. Okay, there's another family that I'm good friends with, and she's kind of a comedian. So she's got a couple of really good pieces of advice I think you guys will really like. All right, number one, you might be a preemie parent if it takes you 20 minutes to answer how old your baby is. And that is so true. When your baby is born premature, you can't just tell somebody, well, we're really 2 months old, because you may be 2 months, but then you've got to talk about corrected gestational age or postmenstrual age. You have to explain, well, we were actually born at 25 weeks. We are 2 months, but we're actually corrected to 44 weeks. And so it does take a little bit of time to really kind of correct and make sure everybody understands what is the actual age of your baby. So I think that was pretty smart and pretty comedic. Okay, the second one that Michelle has is being a NICU mom means learning how to convert grams to pounds and milliliters to ounces. Again, so true. A lot of the medical speak that we have, that at first you're lost, you have no idea what we're saying. You'll actually learn in time to be able to say, okay, my baby was born at, we are, 1,500 grams. Okay, that's a little over 3.2 pounds. And so you very quickly will learn using your phone at first or asking the nurses what your baby's weights are. When we give it to you in grams, you'll immediately learn to convert them into pounds. Same things with volumes as far as milk and feeds and formula and all that. So I thought that was really smart of Ms. Michelle, and again, it's pretty funny too. Another piece of advice from another family: keep a journal. Write everything down, from how your little one is doing to how you are feeling. The first time you hear a cry to hitting that next pound. You will want to remember all those milestones. I see a lot of the moms and dads, usually the moms, they keep an agenda. They keep a book where they make notes. Sometimes they're medical notes. We went up from a pressure of 5 to 6, and at first you don't understand that lingo. In time you go back and you can read it and, oh, so this is what happened with my baby, and this is what they were doing on this exact date. So some of that can be just understanding and getting to know some of the medical lingo. You write that down, you can look it up later. Obviously on my YouTube channel, you can look at the definitions of things, or you can ask me in the comments section. I'm happy to answer anything back as far as definitions or understanding of diseases. And if I'm hearing a lot of comments or I'm getting a lot of questions, I'll just do a video on those diseases. So it's really important to understand the medical part, but it's also a little bit of the psychosocial. It helps a little bit with growth and healing and understanding where am I today, but you can look back in your agenda and your diary and look back where you were 2 weeks ago. And sometimes you realize, wow, we really have progressed, even though you may not feel like you've advanced too much. So an agenda really gives you a nice big picture. And actually, I even had a family whose father was a writer, and he kept this agenda, this diary, and then later was able to publish. And I'll go ahead and in the bottom, in the comment section, I'll go ahead and link his book so that you guys can read it. It's just a wonderful story. It's in Spanish, but it's a wonderful story of a premature baby who was very sick and who was able to make it and is doing really, really marvelous now. But you can, that was just an amazing story. So I had to mention that. A wonderful family too. This was an interesting one from another family member. Accept that you and your partner will react differently. Share your experiences and listen with empathy so that you can feel supported. And it is very important for couples that are in the intensive care unit. This is an extremely stressful time. This is why in my hospital and many other hospitals, we actually have a psychologist come and visit with the families. It's not that we think you're crazy. It's just that the NICU in itself is a crazy place. Nobody expects to have a sick baby. Nobody expects to see your baby, instead of like you see in all the movies, have now these tubes and lines and all these other equipment. It can be so stressful, and you might not know how to handle it. So that's why we have a psychologist. But also there is that stress that happens within couples. It's really important for you guys to find some time to slow down. You know, we're in COVID right now, so we can't do this. But with other families, I've actually literally prescribed, and this is your physician telling you, go to the movies or go out on a date night, because you really need to find yourselves again. You've been so focused sometimes for months on the illness of your baby, you forget about the couple and nurturing that relationship and understanding each other, and like that parent says, understanding and being empathetic of what the other person is feeling. You may be crying all the time if the other person is completely fine. It's not that other person is fine. They may be just dealing it with in a different manner. So it's important to really have that open communication as a couple. One of the most common comments or advice that I get from different families is to make sure you take care of yourself. As one of the families put it, the NICU is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to pace yourself. You're gonna wanna give 1,000% to your baby. You don't wanna say goodbye. You don't wanna leave them ever. And obviously that is such a hard thing to do. And I haven't experienced it myself. I haven't had, thank God, I haven't had somebody that's been sick or in the intensive care unit. So I don't know as a parent, but seeing a lot of parents, it's very difficult for them to say goodbye every single day. And the excitement of them coming into the intensive care unit, you can see it visually. So it's very hard to step away, but you must do it. You must take care of yourself. You've got to find some time to be able to get away from the NICU. If you have other kids, obviously to spend time with them, but also just to get away. Use your partner, if you have a significant other, to be able to come in and sort of relieve you if that makes you feel better, so that you can have some time for yourself and take care of yourself. One final quick thought from a family, and this is so true. The NICU chapter will end, and your baby will come home. Sometimes it feels like it will never end, but it will. I do speak to a lot of families about that, and sometimes how hard it is when you are there as the parent and you see other babies that have been there for a long time sometimes that are leaving, and they're celebrating and they're so happy. And obviously, I've had a lot of families say, I'm so happy for them, but I kind of have this feeling like, when is it my turn? And it will happen. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and ultimately that train will leave one day. And it's just very hard to see other families leave before you, but it will happen. That chapter will end. So hang in there, because that day is going to be super amazing. We love celebrating. I've got so many wonderful pictures with families as they leave the hospital. And then obviously I get them, the families send Christmas cards and photos of the kids growing, which I absolutely love. Okay, thank you again for watching. I hope this was a little bit of a different video, as I'm not really explaining a whole lot of things, but I really wanted you to get the parental advice that's so important. In the near future, I will be actually making some videos with families as they kind of explain things directly to you. But for now, we have these quotes. I hope it really helps you. Thank you again for watching. Please like these videos. Please subscribe. It really helps me and gives me strength to be able to continue to making great videos for you. Okay? Thank you so much, and we'll see you with the next video. See ya.